I had the cervical cancer from that, from the testing from that. And so when I was told by the doctor who performed the testing, he was saying because of the severity of where it was, the stage, that, you know, I would basically not be able to have any children. Move past fear, because fear will lock you up and cause you to stay home. Regardless of how much time I have to live my life, and I have to live my life to the fullest. We were going to go the route of foster care. So we actually started the classes. I remember the representative did tell me, asked me did I have children? Did we have children? And said, no, don't have any smaller children. We're ready. Right. And a couple weeks in, we found we found out that my son was on the way. And so it was a joy, and also scary.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Busy Moms Get It Done podcast. I am your host, Esther Shitu, and today I am pleased to welcome Shereka Nicole, CEO and founder of Premier Moms. Premier Moms is an organization that aims to support moms with the training and support, mentoring, and resources to balance both work and family. So, very much all of the things that we talk about here. Thank you so much, Shereka, for joining me on today's podcast.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So happy to be here.
So happy to have you. So, one of the reasons that I reached out, and one of the reasons I was like very intrigued to hear about your story, is because I saw your LinkedIn post about being diagnosed with cancer and being told that you won't have children. So, can you begin by taking me back to that time when you were told you wouldn't have children? What was your state of mind at the time? What was your mindset around motherhood? Was it even something you were considering? Because sometimes people aren't considering motherhood, and then they told they can't have it, and then they was like they want it. What was your state at that point?
Yeah, so thank you so much for drawing attention to that, especially in light to last month, January, being Cervical Cancer Awareness Month. And I'm very passionate about the whole being aware of cancer, all cancers, but specifically, the ones that are close and dear to my heart, and myself and my community, and that cervical cancer, which is what I was diagnosed with. And unfortunately, I found out after I had a violent attack when I was in college. Um, and after going through treatment and testing for that, I found out that that I had the cervical cancer from that, from the testing from that. And so when I was told by the doctor who performed the testing, he was saying because of the severity of where it was, the stage, that, you know, I would basically not be able to have any children. And to be honest, I was devastated because I always felt within my heart that I would be a mother. Um, it was all the way to the point of just like not wanting to, like, thinking like my life was over, literally past even children, just thinking like this is a death sentence. Like, I don't there's nothing else that I'm gonna be able to live for, right? When you think about, people say the big C or the cancer word, and really not knowing anything about the specific type that I had, just hearing cancer. So my first reaction was, my life is over. Like, what am I going to do? And then the second reaction was, wow, it sunk in from what the doctor was saying. Like, I'm not going to be able to have children. That's so devastating. So to answer your question, that was my first reactions. hmm
So, what age were you? Because you mentioned like you were in college. So was this like 22, 23? Was it mid-20s? What age were you? Because it's so
So
young,
when I
right?
was, yes, so when I was first diagnosed, it was my junior year. So I was around maybe 20, going into 21. was when I was first diagnosed. And then over time, which I'm a big advocate on women, making sure you have routine pap smears. And then from your pap smear, your doctor will let you know if your pap smear is abnormal. And then if it's abnormal, you might have to do like a biopsy, which then that's when they'll see if you have any cancerous cells. So over the
Mm.
years, I've been back on watch where I've had abnormal cancer cells, going through like precancerous stage one. So now in my state, I have to go to the doctor every 6 months just to double check and make sure that the cells haven't reappeared. I actually go back in a few weeks for my testing. So I'm a big advocate on women, including men, for different cancers, but for women to make sure they're doing the annual pap smears, regardless of if you're sexually active or not, because one of the things which is called HPV, that can stay in your system for years and and be not detected. And if it's not detected and it's in your system for years, that's a stream that can turn into cervical cancer. So in essence, you can have it and be going on and on about your daily life and not even know it because you don't have any symptoms. So it's important and super important for women to get their annual pap smears.
So when you got this diagnosis, obviously you had kind of the devastation, the feeling of like my life is over. And then you also had the second part, which is like feeling like, you wanted to have children. And so this kind of felt like it has stolen it. But when in your post, you mentioned obviously that you took some steps, right? You started to, eat more meat and vegetables. You walked more weekly. You started praying and reading the Bible. Why did you chose those healing paths? And how did you get to the point from like, I'm super devastated to this. I need to pick myself up out of this, encourage myself, and, go after this with like I'm going to survive and God is going to see me through.
Yes, great question. I do want to put a plug real quick in that I am a cancer research intervention advocate for the Cancer Research Center at UF Health. So any woman that wants more information or you just want resources, definitely reach out to Esther and she'll give you my information so that you can get all the resources you need, regardless of your insurance. It's never too late, and you are important to get the information. So I did want to say that. As far as the holistic approach, my take on it was I moved past the concept of not having children. So I moved
Hmm.
past that and I moved to the concept of regardless of how much time I have to live my life and I have to live my life to the fullest, right? So how can I do these things? And I've always been like a into holistic, in health and wellness. I've always been like that. And so I was just like, let's focus on making a better me, right? Let's focus on making a better me. Let's look at, what can I do to have a better mindset? What can I do for my body? Like evaluating how well am I taking care of my body, because there's things along the way as women and men that you could do better. So I was just like, let's look at my eating. I'm eating pretty good, but I can eat cleaner, right? I can cut back on some things, some starches, put in some more vegetables. I can drink more water and take away the sugary drinks that are not really good for me. And then onto my mindset, what books am I reading? Maybe I finished a book 2 months ago. Now it's time to find another good book to keep my mind, occupied. So those are some of the things I just was looking at, like, what can I do to be a better me in the time that I have? I don't know, what time. They didn't give me a time frame, but my mindset thought process was, how can I be a better me right now? So like living in the moment.
Did you also choose other conventional methods of treatment? And how long did it take for them to be like, okay, you're cancer free? And what would you attribute mainly to it? Was it that holistic method that you took, or was it more, the conventional method, if you did go the conventional route?
So I actually it actually, the as far as my cancer, that happened rather quickly, because they caught it in stage one. So
Okay, good.
they caught it in time, I was able to do medication. So there's different treatments for different kind of cancer, whether you have breast cancer, whether you have colon, prostate, cervical, uterine. My mom had uterine, and we can share about that another time. Unfortunately, she passed away because she found out in not enough time. When we found out about hers, she was in stage 4. So that's why it's super important, ladies, to find out early as possible so that you can do all kind of try different things, right? So for me, I was in stage 1, and I was able to not have to do radiation, not have to do chemo. I was able to just treat it with medication, and I was able to soon thereafter, after going back for a couple evaluations, be cancer free. And with that, even though that's the case, I still have to go. Like I said, I started back every year for my treat testing. And then now, because along the way, like I said, I did have a couple abnormal paps back to back. They've streamlined me to come back every 6 months. So again, I'm due for my 6 month checkup here soon. But for the most part, from my doctor, I've been doing really well. And the last checkup, it was really emotional because he actually grabbed my hand and he looked at me and he said, "Shereka, I'm so proud of you for going past fear and coming in to get your checkups, because you have to move past fear, because fear will lock you up and cause you to stay home or just stay wherever you are and not go get your checkups, and you don't know what's going on." And so he said, "I really appreciate you as a woman actually coming in, and defeating fear to just find out what's going on with your body."
Yeah, I definitely important to not be so fear really is a state of mind, right? Um I think someone spoke told me recently a story about I don't know where I heard it, but I guess a man was he had got himself locked up inside a freezer, and then he had kind of already predicted based on the fear of how he was going to die, and so he's like, I'm gonna freeze to death or whatever. And when they found him, he was dead. But what happened was the freezer wasn't shut locked all the way. So the temperature wasn't really even to the standard that he should have, passed away. But because of that fear and that state of mind that he was in, he kind of, went to the next
Hmm.
phase. So I think our mind really is such a powerful force in that what we tell ourselves, the Bible talks about as a man think it, so is he, so he is. So it's the same set of like the way we think of ourselves, the way we the thoughts that we allow ourselves to entertain is basically going to be becoming of what we're going to be. So
Hmm.
moving on to your motherhood journey, you went past through the diagnosis, and you went through the route of you decided to go through the route of foster care. You later got pregnant. Why did you choose foster care? And how did that process go?
Yes. So when funny story is, when I graduated high school, one of the things, the professions that I wanted to do, I didn't know much at the time, was be a foster parent. I thought that I thought that that was a profession, right? And so I wanted to have this big house with all of these foster kids, specifically teenagers,
Okay.
to really pour into them, empower them, and just love on them, to know that you do have a family and that you can be great, regardless of your background, you can be great. So with education and knowledge, I found out, like, it's not just that plain and simple. I started when I was in graduate school, I started working with an organization called One Church, One Child.
Mm,
And with that organization, they had me, I was like a representative. So I would go to different churches and I would go to different organizations and make presentations to to help people, recruit people to be foster parents and adoptive parents. So that's the seed that started it. Was me, traveling around doing the presentations to have the children find homes, good, stable, safe homes. And then from there, I loved it so much. Actually became a caseworker. And so I was a caseworker for about 3 years. And that grew my passion even more. Um, to the fact where I was later put on a team called the Intense Permanency Team. And that team worked with children from very severe cases where it could be like cases that were on the news. So one of my little boys I had, he had his parents from whatever reason had a big argument and he fell down a flight of stairs and was really, really he was really broken up. It was a lot, a tragic situation, and he was on the news. And so I ended up getting that case. And so from that team, I learned so much. And of course, as you can only imagine, my love for the industry grew. And then eventually I became a guardian ad litem for the courts, and then also a guardian ad litem mentor for the courts to mentor other guardian ad litems that came into the program. So just my passion just continued to grow, and I just had a epiphany, and I was just like, if this is not going to happen for me and my family, we can always go the foster care route, because I had learned so much over the years about the process, and saw how many babies, how many teenagers really need good homes. And still to this day, like if anyone is listening to me and they're infertile or, whatever the situation is, and you're not able to have children, do think about the foster care route. Do think about adoptive care because there's so many beautiful children that need homes. And so that was the makeup of it. I thought about it, with my partner at the time, and we decided that we were going to go the route of foster care. So we actually started the classes, and I remember the representative did tell me, asked me that did I have children, did we have children, and I said no. And she said, okay, well, with starting this process, I would have to tell you, it's best if you don't have young children, coming into foster care because you never know what the case and the background of the children's going to be. And sometimes you really have to work through, some issues that may come up. And if you have a smaller child, which makes sense, you want to make sure that your small child is safe,
Mhm.
around the child that you're bringing in. So everything was fine with that. I said, no, don't have any smaller children. We're ready, right? And a couple weeks in, we found out, we found out that my son was on the way. And so it was a joy. And also scary. I will have to
Yeah.
say that because he was my first. So it was also scary because, if you can only imagine, I didn't think I could have kids. So I was just like, how did this happen? Although I know how it happened, but I was still like, how did
I
this
think we all have that reaction. Like, how did this happen?
exactly. So once I got over the fear and the like, how did this happen? A little scary, unknown. I had so many emotions, a roller coaster of emotions. And once it settled in, I started to enjoy the process of waiting for him to get here.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine kind of going through like the roller coaster of like, we're not having kids, we're gonna go through this process and then, finding out even, it's probably like, oh my goodness, thank God that, this can happen after the diagnosis that you had. And so I wanted to ask you, if someone was to be diagnosed with cancer today, or if a mom received that diagnosis today, what would your advice be to them? Because you went through so much in that part of your life and you're still, going through treatment every few months that like what would you advise them to do and how would you advise them to, move forward?
Yes, and just to an addition or update, going through testing. So
Mm,
no treatment, just testing.
I'm testing, sorry.
Mhm. So it so I will talk just quickly on caregiver side because I had to care for my mother, and then I'll come
Mm,
back to me. So on the caregiver side, the the best thing that you can do for yourself is set aside time for yourself. Because with my mother, when she was diagnosed stage 4, um, you can only imagine it was a lot. And I'm only 4
mm-hmm.
years out now. So I'm still actually
Wow,
grieving
yeah.
her and going through counseling actually weekly. I'm going through counseling right now with my mother because she was not only my mother, but my best friend.
Mm,
But for people that are caregiving for friends or family, I would say definitely designate time for yourself. Because for me, when I found out I wanted to be right under her all day, every day, I didn't want to take a break. I was at the hospital. If she had to go to testing, I was on the ambulance to take her to testing. Like literally, I didn't want her to be out of my sight. Like it was that consuming. But it wasn't until my mom said one day in the hospital, she was like, Sharika, you have got to do something for yourself. She was like, I'm gonna be here. I'm I'm in the hospital. She was like, if you think about it, I'm in the best place possible. She was like, so you have got to take a break. You have got to step away. Go to the beach, go get a mani pedi, go hang out with a friend, just go do
Mhm.
something to just, relieve the pressure and the stress of caring for me. And so it wasn't until then that the light bulb went off that I was like, okay, because she was like, you can't be good for me if you're not good for yourself. If you're drained and tired and stressed out, how can you be here for me? Right. And so I would just tell people that are caring for those that have cancer to schedule time for yourself and take that needed time. No matter what, force yourself to step away, get a breather and come back. As far as myself, I had to do the same thing, kind of focus on myself, focus on my needs, what I needed, like going back to even just eating cleaner, keeping a good mindset. And then as far as for help for others for diagnose, you first want to make sure that you're keeping your routines exams. So you want to go in and have your exam. So whether that be a mammogram, typically those start at around age 40, but I would advise even women starting at age 35 if you can to try to go in and get your mammogram. Also, you should be doing self-testing on your breasts, so you can self-test, and there's resources and material out if you don't know how to do it, but you should be doing self-testing so you can check for lumps. As well as in the other area for women, you should also be looking down there, looking using a mirror to see if you see anything, right? How is it feeling? Your pH, it should have a certain odor to it. It shouldn't be a bad odor, right? It shouldn't have like a itch to it, right? These are some of the things that we don't talk about that we have to talk about. It's imperative. And even burning or even if you're being intimate, it shouldn't hurt. It shouldn't hurt down there, right? With my mom, one of the things for her with her age, she passed away at 66,
Mm.
but she was bleeding really bad. So depending on your
Wow.
age, if you are done with your period or in the middle, you still shouldn't be bleeding so heavy. So it's really about monitoring your body as a woman, right? Monitoring your breasts, monitoring your vagina, monitoring your menstrual cycle, monitoring how your body parts are feeling, smells, all of this stuff is super important. And if anything feels off, schedule an appointment right away.
Yeah, I think that that self-awareness is really important. And I love that one of the things that you mentioned at the beginning was that like examining yourself. Yes, you still did, took the medicine that they told you to take, but you examine yourself. You're like, am I eating cleaner? Do I need to do more in exercise? Do I need to drink more water? Like being aware of ourselves, I feel like, is the greatest gift that we can have for ourselves. I want to shift gear and start talking about Premier Moms. How did it, you started with this mission of helping moms thrive both at home and at work? And what does it mean, to help them thrive and give them a place where they can celebrate? I feel like you guys, from what I've seen on social media, there's just a lot of celebrations of moms and, giving mom their flowers, which I really love. So how did that vision come about for you?
Yes. So, very interesting and unique story. So I was married for about 10 years. And then I said I was a married mom and I'm also a single mom. So I've had the both worlds, right? And
Yeah.
so in the time where, I was becoming back single, going through mediation, and just going through different things I was going through at the time. And even let's go back. So before that, when I was married, just the getting used to like n- not being on my own anymore, right? It
Mm,
being like a little person and then another big person,
yeah.
adjusting my time, like adjusting like work schedules and daycare and meal prep and food and traveling here and traveling there and baby bags and poop and urine. It was just it can be
It's a
a lot.
lot.
It can be a lot and overwhelming, like when you're put right into it, right? There was no
Yes.
like guidebook,
Yes,
on
yes.
he's gonna poop at this time and
He's gonna
then
poop all over the floor when you're trying
yes,
to
put the
when you're
diaper
trying to potty train.
yeah,
Uh,
and put the diaper up a little bit because his little peewee could squirt out and pee on you, right?
that's
No
funny.
one told me, no one told me this.
That
And
is
so,
hilarious.
with that being said, I kind of lost myself. I kind
Mm,
of lost my, identity, in the first stages of marriage, and had to find myself back along the way. So that was the first initial part of just like losing myself in the newness of it and having to find myself. And then when, like I said, I was going from being married to single, it was the mediation process and just feeling like I needed like so much more resources and so much more community, and I couldn't find the community. I couldn't find the resources that I needed. And so, being a woman of faith as well, I was just meditating and praying one day, and God was like, what you're looking for, you started. And I was like, oh, no, 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 no. I'm not starting. I'm not starting anything. I was like, I'm looking for someone to help me.
right?
I'm more of a person that like if there's other capable people of doing something, I rather follow. That's me, right?
Yeah.
But God was like, no, you see that there's nothing that you're looking for. So you created, you be the pathway and you be the light for other women and other moms. So it was a bit of a tug and pull. I would say I didn't immediately walk into that. But through revelation, different things I was asking to be shown, signs. He did give me a clear path that this was my purpose, to help women and moms. And so with our organization, Premier Moms, it's not a faith-based organization, so you can be of any religion to join us. I am, I believe in the Holy Spirit and the Trinity, Jesus Christ. I'm a Christian, so that's my faith, right? But other people can have other faith, and also, one thing that I ask as a leader and the founder is that everyone respects each other.
Mm,
So I have a wonderful lady that's a Buddhist, right?
mm,
And then I have other women who are Muslims, right? And so at the end of the day, even in the workplace, you're going to work with people that don't believe what you believe. But at the end of the day, you can always respect each other and you can always show love. So that's what we're all about. We're all about respecting and definitely all about showing love, shining, and celebrating. So, going to the meat of your question, what we're all about. We are a community center organization that focuses on training, mentoring slash coaching, and networking opportunities for moms in
mm.
Gainesville, Florida, and online as well. So you don't have to be near our headquarters to be a part of us. You can join us from online, and simply just reach out to us by email, premiermoms1@gmail.com, or you can reach out through LinkedIn. We're also on Instagram and also on Facebook and X. And you can just let us know that you want to join our community and I can get you all of the information. But that is how the backstory of how we got started. And each and every day, we're just here to support moms. We're here to focus on promoting them, advancing them, and helping them to work towards long term family stability.
What does that mean, long-term family stability, and how do you think that, the moms that you work with, how do they achieve it? What does that, what are they looking mostly when, or what is the void that they're trying to fill when they come to you?
Yeah, so we have moms that join us for different reasons. I can give you two success stories. So one, going back to how I told you we're very community centered. So we try to do a community service project every quarter.
Mm,
And about 3 years ago now, we went to a organization that focuses on homelessness, a shelter. And we were doing a food like a food drive, but basically like feeding them. We met a young lady there who had two children and who really, she really inspired me because of her drive and her tenacity to make it. And I
mm,
always tell people, if you see like a little light like that, it's so easy to make it bright, to make it a bigger light. And so I told her as we sat down over dinner that she had, after talking, she had two great things going on. She had a car, and she had a job. It wasn't the job that she liked to have, but it was a job. It was income. And so she joined our organization. We began to work with her. The main thing she wanted to do was increase her skills. And so, we do resume help, we do interviewing, mock interviews, we have notary services. We do these things so that the woman and the mom can advance herself. Like, what skills do you have that you need perfecting, right? Do you need help with negotiation skills? Maybe you are a little bit shy in the workplace and you're not going after what you deserve. We can sit down and work with you to build that confidence, that self awareness, that self esteem that you need to go for what you want. And so with her, we did some of those things through coaching. She applied for a better job. She ended up getting it. She works for the sheriff's office here now, which is so awesome. We found out through resources about rapid housing programs, and she was
mhm.
able to get into that. So a lot of it also is accountability, having someone to walk hand in hand beside you as you're completing tasks. And that's what we do. We are accountable to each other. So holding her accountable, completing applications, letting us know when deadlines are coming up. When are you meeting these deadlines? Following up, and so through that, she was able to get stable housing, which is wonderful. And then also we write grants. We apply for different things for the moms, and so we were able to get her a grant for her and her family to have counseling, which was very needed for her because she went through a lot of trauma, being at the shelter and prior to the shelter through a domestic relationship, which brought her to the shelter. So, all in all, it's really the resources and the community that we bring to the women and moms, and just really having the time to listen to what the need is, doing a need analysis to find out what do you really need, and then working towards that goal together.
I love that. And we're about to wrap up, but you're talking about, helping others kind of find that light, or little having that light for you that you see. I wonder for you, you've been through so much. You've been through, a cancer diagnosis. You've been through, shift in relationship status. You mentioned on I saw on LinkedIn that you mentioned something with your eye, you grief. We go through so much in life, but what I love about you is the fact that it seems like your light just keeps shining brighter and brighter and brighter, and you don't let it stop shining. What would you say keeps you going, and then what role does your faith in God and Jesus plays in all of this?
Definitely, what keeps me going is my faith, for
Mm.
sure, my faith. I literally wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for my faith and for, my savior. I definitely would have to say that I give him all of the credit, because there's so many days, that I just did not know what to do, like I said, going back to even dealing with my mom, it has been a journey. It has definitely been a journey. I went to actually the first year, I didn't even cry for the
Mm.
first year. I was numb, literally numb. And it wasn't until the funeral director, God bless his soul, he's no longer here, Mr. Bernard. It wasn't until he took me aside and he said, I feel like you're the strongest woman I've met. He's like, because even with like the planning, the programs, the coming here, to seeing her body, to picking her wig and what she's gonna wear, he's like, "You never shedded a tear." But he also was concerned. He was just like,
You need to cry.
"Never seen this before," and literally that was a shift though for me to know that like I really gotta get help. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm,
this is severe. And then I found out through therapy that numbing is a reaction. Like being numb is an emotional reaction that you have to work through. And so after year one, going into year two, then two and a half, three is when I really was not in denial about it. So really to be honest, year three coming into now, year four is I'm actually just starting to deal with it. So I always say that too, depending on whatever trauma or grief you've been through, don't ever let anybody make you feel bad, make you feel embarrassed on where you're at, what stage you're at, because it could be fresh for you, but it could have happened 5 years, 10 years ago. But it's when you actually start taking off the layers and start unpacking and working through it is when you're going to feel it the most. And so I would say just make sure that you're taking care of yourself, doing the things that you need to do. And again, for me, what really helped me together was my faith, and knowing that it's not about me. So that's the biggest lesson for me with my faith, that it's not about me. It's not about you, Sharika, but it's about all the ladies and all the women and all the moms that are going to come after you. And so many times, like right when I feel like, okay, God, I've done enough work. I'm going to shift and do something else. It'll be another mom, that
mm.
comes in and that gets the services and that says, oh my God, thank you so much for having this community. Like, I don't know what I would have done without this community and without you all taking the time and actually listening to me and actually walking with me hand in hand to help me towards my goals.
No, I love that, and I think what you said about numbness is so true because I remember I've for from like 2020 to maybe for just a couple of successive years, maybe 2017 to like 2021, we just had a lot of debt in my family. We had my grandmother died in 2027, so in 2017, we had my aunt die in 2019. We had my aunt through marriage die in 2021, and it was just so much back to back to back. But I remember particularly from my aunt, it's like it wasn't until I was pregnant with my first, I just noticed that during that state, I was just crying and crying and crying,
Mhm,
and I would just remember her. And the same back goes back in with my stepfather. He passed away in like 2011, or no, not 2011, but when he passed away, I didn't really cry. But a year later, I just found myself being like, I'm just in the bus and I'm just bawling because like you numb yourself to the pain so much that it's not until later, it's like 2
mhm,
years later that it seems like that pain just hits you like, "Oh my gosh, this really happened," and now your
mhm.
body is allowing you to, like, to work through it. So, yeah, I think what you said about pain and numbness is true. I do know that you guys have I think you have an event in March, is that correct?
Yes, we do. And before I get to that, I did want to say with you, my condolences to you for
Thank you.
going through that. It's not easy regardless of what family member it is, and for you to have like back to back to back, like, my prayers are with you. I
Thank
did
you.
also want to add for, you, me, and women and also men who are dealing with grief or whatever trauma it is, not to allow friends and family to make you feel bad regardless of what your capacity is, right? I learned this through
Mm,
my therapist. She said to say to people, if, let's say they call or they want you to do something, you say, I don't have the capacity to do that today. I'm sorry that, you want me to go do this or you want me to stay on the phone for an hour and listen to you, but I really just don't have the capacity today. I can't handle it. And also, you can give people numbers so that they know if they call you, 10 could be you're ready and able to be there and listen, and one could be the signal to tell them today is not a good day, right? Maybe
that's a good
another,
system.
so like today I'm at a one.
Mhm.
So I don't have anything to give you. I don't have the capacity. And then you feel empowered to then shift and do something for yourself. So I did want to add that to empower everyone to focus on yourself when you're grieving and when you're going through trauma. Don't let anyone make you feel bad about the capacity that you can handle.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. I think that, yeah, I tend to overhandle my capacity. So I don't know my capacity until after it happens, and I'm like, I would not have the capacity for that. But can you talk about your event that's happening in March?
Yeah, so thank you for bringing that up. So every year we have an annual event for International Women's Day. We're super excited for it. I get excited every time because I love, love, love celebrating women and celebrating moms because we go through so much. Just being a woman. Oh my God. I
Yes.
love you, men. We love you, men. We love you, husbands. We love you, brothers, uncles, cousins. We love you guys, but we go through so much as women. All
Yes.
right. And then moms, we go through so much. And so anytime I can celebrate a woman and a mom, anytime we can do that, we are excited. And so this year it falls on March 8th, which is a Sunday. And
Yeah.
it's at 5 o'clock. And typically what we do is we have a dinner, and we have different people and different spotlights on program. And we have an award ceremony for some amazing, prominent, go-getter, community-oriented women and moms in the community. And they don't have to be moms; they can also be women. So this year we're featuring 10 amazing women. Oh my God, these women are phenomenal. Like if you follow our LinkedIn, you will see a lot of the moms there, but you can also find them on Instagram and on our Facebook as well. The features for them with their bios and what they've done. It is phenomenal. And so anyone can get tickets to join us if you're local. And even if you're out of town and you want to fly in. We would love to see you. But you can get tickets at premiermoms1@gmail.com. And if you can't come and you just want to be a sponsor, maybe you want to be a business sponsor or an individual sponsor, or if you want to have an ad that we show at the event or show on our social media, we would love to have you join us that way as well. So you can reach out through our email.
Perfect. Thank you, Sharika. I really appreciate it. This podcast will definitely be out before then. So thank you to everyone for joining us today on Busy Moms Get It Done podcast, and we'll see you next week. Thank you. This was such a great conversation.